Last night, Bill Doran's two-run single in the bottom of the 8th inning off Roger McDonough lifted Cincinnati to a 4-3 win over Los Angeles in Game 1 of this three-game series. And welcome to Cincinnati as CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Once again today, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds, with their win last night, pushed their lead to 2.5 games over the Giants and Padres in the National League West. The Dodgers, with their loss, now 6.5 back. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Sean McDonough along with Tim McCarver. It's good to have you with us again. Los Angeles last night, a case of more of the same, another one-run loss. They are 6-16 in one-run decisions this year. That is the worst such record in all of Major League Baseball.
Well, one of the big reasons is that every general needs his soldiers. Darryl Strawberry and Eric Davis going down, a devastating blow to the Dodgers. But Tommy Lasorda, the manager of Los Angeles, held a meeting, and he said 2 individuals going down cannot determine the fate of this season, and so far it hasn't. As a matter of fact, without Darryl Strawberry and Eric Davis, over the last 19 games, the Dodgers have won 11 of them.
But they come into this one having lost 7 of their last 10. We'll have the first pitch of the ball game for you from Cincinnati in just a moment.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering. Delta Airlines, we love to fly, and it shows. And by new Coors Cutter non-alcoholic brew.
Another big crowd here at Riverfront Stadium, ready for this afternoon's game between the Reds and the Dodgers. And for Cincinnati, it's Tim Belcher on the mound.
Tim Belcher lost 1-0 to Tom Candiotti and the Dodgers last Sunday. He gave up 3 singles in that game. He features a fastball slider, a good split finger pitch, and the Reds simply have not scored enough runs for him recently. In his last 3 games, he has won 1-0 and 2-1 and lost 1-0.
And Brett Butler leads off. We're underway as Butler showed bunt and took ball 1 low. Brett comes into the ball game hitting .284. With 1 homer, he has knocked in 12. He'll be followed by Lenny Harris and Cal Daniels for the Dodgers in the top of the first. All of the rest of the numbers, beside the 1-loss record of Tim Belcher that you saw on his statistical line graphically, are impressive. 5-6 record doesn't match up with the rest of them, but as Tim mentions, it's a lack of run support, and at the moment it's a lack of control that has Belcher behind Butler 3-0. They're in tight at the corners. And Butler walks on 4 pitches to start the ball game. The rest of the lineup this afternoon for the Los Angeles Dodgers: Lenny Harris at third base, Cal Daniels in left field, Eric Karros is the cleanup hitter at first base, Todd Benzinger in right, Juan Samuel just off the DL at second base, Mike Scioscia bats 7th and is doing the catching, Jose Offerman at shortstop, and the pitcher Tom Candiotti bats 9th. Butler at first with nobody out for Lenny Harris. Belcher finally in with a strike after 4 consecutive balls. Harris is hitting .297 and has knocked in 6 runs.
Formerly a member of the Cincinnati Reds, going to Los Angeles 2.5 years ago with Cal Daniels, who is the on-deck batter right now, for Tim Leary and Mariano Duncan, neither of whom are with the Reds right now.
Off-speed pitch, and Belcher missed. Butler with 9 stolen bases, but he's also been thrown out 9 times trying to steal.
Part of that trade, however, you looked at Hal Morris right there, but part of that trade helped the Reds in a sense because Hal Morris, the starting first baseman today, coming from the Yankees for Tim Leary. So the Reds still have part of the trade, the Harris-Daniels trade, to Los Angeles almost 3 years ago. And there he is, Hal Morris, the first baseman.
Both catchers working today have had difficulty throwing out base stealers this year. Joe Oliver has thrown out only 12 of 44. And Mike Scioscia, his opposite number, has thrown out 9 of 54. Belcher misses again outside. 6 balls and only 1 strike thrown by Tim Belcher to this point.
An ideal count on which to send the runner. 2 balls and a strike, nobody out. The one thing against not sending him is that Tim Belcher is having control problems. And a manager always tries to pick a good pitch on which to hit and run.
Butler not running there, and the reason why, the control trouble, as Belcher missed again. 3-1. Tommy Lasorda in his 16th season as manager of the Dodgers, in his 43rd year in the Dodger organization. Butler bluff. Harris sends it down the left field line, and it's slicing foul and out of play. The umpires working this ball game. Brian Gorman is calling the balls and strikes, mostly balls to this point. Steve Ripley the plays at first. Terry Tata at second, and Joe West calls the plays at third. Butler not running on the 3-2 pitch, and Harris sent it straight back to the screen.
Why would Brett Butler not be running in that situation? He may have missed a sign, and it's almost like he's telling Joe Amalfitano, the first base or the third base coach. I mean, a jump is not imperative in a situation like that. It's not a situation where you run if you get a good jump. You are compelled to run.
They can't be very worried about the strikeout with Harris into a double play, because Lenny has only fanned 10 times this year in 128 at-bats. No score. We're just underway in the top of the first. Butler at first with nobody out. He is running with this 3-2 pitch, and again it's fouled away by Harris. Lou Piniella has his Reds in first place in the NL West with a record of 33-24. That's despite the fact that Cincinnati has only played 22 home games this year. They've played 35 on the road. Butler running again. Harris chopped it down to Chris Sabo. To Morris, 1 out, and a runner in scoring position now for the Dodgers.
When a third baseman feels the ball and is forced to come in with a runner at first base, he is leaving third base naked. Consequently, somebody has to be there in case the runner with some speed, in this case, and Brett Butler, decides to go to third. Both Barry Larkin and Tim Belcher both covering third after Sabo made the play to first.
So a chance for Cal Daniels to drive in the game's first run. He's at 234 with 2 homers, and he has knocked in 8. Down to Morris. Belcher covers, 2 outs. Butler to third. The one constant in this 1992 season for Cincinnati has been excellent fielding. They've been without players. They've played mostly on the road. The power has been sporadic at best. But defense has been a constant. And here's Eric Karros, the first baseman, the cleanup hitter this afternoon. Eric hitting .250. 7 home runs, 21 runs batted in. He leads the team with the 7 home runs. He's tied with Darryl Strawberry for the club lead in RBI. Belcher starts him with a strike.
Eric Karros from Hackensack, New Jersey. So he, like the Dodgers, left the metropolitan New York area and moved to Los Angeles. The Dodgers doing that after the 1957 season.
And Karros was not yet born back in 1957. He's 23 years old. The Golden Greek, as Tommy Lasorda called it. Getting a chance to play now that Eddie Murray moved on to the New York Mets. Swing and a miss, 1-2. Belcher working with Butler at third and 2 outs. In the top of the first, no score. Fouled away, first base side. They had 44,000 plus here last night at Riverfront, their largest crowd since opening day. And they might have more than that here today. It is Helmet Day in Cincinnati. Fastball just inside. Belcher is 6'3", 220 pounds. A native of Sparta, Ohio. He's 30 years old. His 2-2 pitch is chopped down to third. Tough play for Sabo backing up. And a long throw got him. And the Dodgers leave Butler at third in the top of the first. After half an inning, Los Angeles nothing in Cincinnati coming up. To the bottom of the first, and Tom Candiotti is getting ready to face the Reds.
Tom Candiotti describes himself as not a knuckleball pitcher, but a pitcher that throws a knuckleball. He beat the Cincinnati Reds 1-0 in his first appearance ever against Cincinnati last Sunday.
And the lineup he will face this afternoon has Bip Roberts leading off at second base. Dave Martinez, the center fielder. Barry Larkin is the shortstop. Paul O'Neill in right field. Reggie Sanders batting fifth in left field. Hal Morris, the first baseman. Chris Sabo bats seventh at third base. Joe Oliver is doing the catching, and batting ninth, the pitcher, Tim Belcher.
Defensively for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Cal Daniels will be the left fielder. Brett Butler has made only one error since 1990. He's in center field. Normally a first baseman, Todd Benzinger, in right this afternoon. Eric Karros, the first baseman, and Juan Samuel, his second game off the disabled list at second. Jose Offerman, the shortstop. Lenny Harris at third base. Mike Scioscia behind the plate, and Tom Candiotti on the mound.
He works to Bip Roberts. Ball one high. Roberts enjoying his first season with the Reds. He's hitting .300. He's knocked in 17 runs. Bip has played 4 different positions in the field. Has only made 2 errors all season, while dividing his time between second base, where he's playing today, third base, left field, and center field. Harrison tight at third for Roberts. Candiotti in with a strike on 2-0. It's 2-1. Tom 6'2", 200 pounds. He's 34 years old, from Walnut Creek, California. And Roberts loops one into center field. That's the first hit of the ball game. A leadoff single in the bottom of the first for Bip Roberts.
If you talk to any hitter who has ever faced the knuckleball, the one thing that you try to do as a hitter is to get ahead in the count so you face something other than a knuckleball. That was a curveball on the 2-1 count. So I think you will see a lot of the Cincinnati Reds taking early in the count and making Candiotti throw something other than the bug. Only 2 knuckleball pitchers in baseball, Charlie Huff for the White Sox and Tim Belcher or I beg your pardon, Tom Candiotti with the Dodgers.
And we've seen both of them on CBS this year.
Yeah.
Roberts with 17 stolen bases to lead the Reds. He's only been thrown out 8 times. Held on by Karros. And the batter is Dave Martinez, the starting center fielder, hitting .246. We mentioned Roberts has played all over. Martinez has been in and out. He's played some first base for the first time since high school. Lou Piniella has a bit of a crowded outfield situation. Today, Glenn Braggs is on the sidelines. He's been trying to keep everybody happy, mixing 5 different parts into the 3 outfield slots.
It's funny, that comment, how a manager is supposed to keep all his players happy, and it's what is never said is that the players should try to keep the manager happy. Well, the Cincinnati players have kept Piniella happy this year.
That's the best way to make sure you're one of the 3 out of the 5 who's out there regularly, is to keep Lou happy, I would think.
That's right.
No score. We're in the bottom of the first. The runner goes at the 1-hopper to short through Offerman and into center field. Roberts to third, first and third, and nobody out for the Reds. The throw gets away from Samuel, and into second goes Dave Martinez. Well, you've seen already the Achilles heel of the Dodgers. They are last in the National League in fielding.
Could be a double error there. We mentioned Brett Butler with only 1 error since 1990. He went through 207 games without committing an error. And it's funny, by putting the hit and run on there, the Dodgers were in a position to make the double play because the runner was running. The throw by Butler is off the right knee of Samuel. As a matter of fact, it's almost off his Achilles heel.
They've charged an error on Offerman, allowing Martinez to reach, and an error on Butler, allowing Martinez to move into second. Second and third, and nobody out. Barry Larkin takes a strike.
Why Butler, though? I mean, if Juan Samuel is there at second, he has 2 options. He can go out and catch the ball in the air. He can back up and make the catch on the 1 hop.
I would agree with you. It wasn't a perfect throw from Butler, but certainly it should have been handled routinely by Samuel. In the dirt and blocked by Social.
Martinez, as a matter of fact, had stopped at first base. There was no play on Martinez at second. So here's the throw once again. It is an in-between hop, but it hits Juan Samuel on the right knee and caroms to the middle of the infield, allowing Martinez to go to second.
If he had taken 2 steps forward, he catches it in the air, and 1 step back, he catches it routinely on a hop.
Right.
He chose not to move and have it go off his leg. Reds with a great chance to take the lead. Larkin mesmerized by the knuckleball, and Barry's behind. A ball and 2 strikes.
This really shows the true grit of a catcher, with a runner at third base trying to handle the knuckleball.
Scioscia has handled it very well, as you would expect. High and tight. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Candiotti with 3 wild pitches on the season.
Bip Roberts, the runner at third. Martinez aboard at second with nobody out. The 2-2. Ripped down the left field line. A fair ball into the corner. Martinez around to score on the heels of Roberts. It's a 2-run double for Barry Larkin and a 2-0 Cincinnati lead.
The inability of the Dodgers to turn the double play. The ball going through Offerman's legs. And 1 earned run. 1 of the 2. But Martinez scoring, of course, an unearned run since he was on an error by Offerman. Barry Larkin hammering this ball into the corner, and the Reds with an early lead.
19 runs driven in for Larkin. He takes off for third. O'Neill took a ball. The throw. Got him. Joe West waiting to make sure that Harris had held on to the ball. Larkin thrown out trying to steal third. He's the first out of the inning.
Well, that's a bad play. With one out, it would have been a good play. With nobody out, I mean, you've got Paul O'Neill, one of the really potent forces, especially against right-handed pitching. And Barry Larkin, if he gets a jump, it better be a good jump, and he better be safe at third base. And he was an easy out. Nice throw by Socia.
Now O'Neill bounces it down to first. That would have gotten the runner to third with one out. Instead, 2 outs and the base is empty. And O'Neill continues to be mired in a slump that started with Candiotti last weekend. Ball's now 0 for his last 19.
See, instead of trying to steal third base with nobody out, you give, especially a left-handed hitter, a chance to move you along, and then you're at third with one out.
Now the rookie, Reggie Sanders, who has to be considered a leading candidate for Rookie of the Year honors in the National League. Reggie at .313 with 3 homers and 17 knocked in. He was one of the 9 Reds who has spent time on the disabled list this year. He was out for 2 weeks in May with a sore left hamstring. That's well struck down the left field line, and a fair ball off the wall of the hop. Sanders, with excellent speed, is into second standing. And with the Dodger problems in the field, Sanders took nothing for granted. He rounded second and watched the play in front of him, ready to take advantage of another miscue that had been committed by one of Tommy Lasorda's Chargers.
Talking to Tom Candiotti last night, Ron Paranowski, the pitching coach, will talk to Tom today. But in talking to Tom last night, he said that Reggie Sanders proved to be his toughest out last Sunday. Sanders with 2 singles, and Candiotti talking about the short, quick stroke of Reggie Sanders, and those have been the types of hitters that have given him problems. Look at the short, compact stroke of Reggie Sanders. He is going to be some fine player once he gets some experience under his belt. He's already a good player. He's going to be a great player.
The 6th batter of the first inning is Hal Morris. The Reds with 2 runs here in the bottom of the first. They've taken advantage of 2 Los Angeles errors on the same play. Sanders bluffed away from second, and Candiotti stepped off. Candiotti says he would much rather face the big swingers, the Jose Canseco types. And usually it's the number 7 or 8 hitter in the batting order that will give me a problem. That's high and tight. 2-0 on Hal Morris. Saw Morris's numbers a moment ago, a .287 average without a home run. Larkin certainly having a subpar year to this point, .248, only 3 home runs. Sabo's hitting .232. More reasons why it's hard to believe Cincinnati is in first place, but they are, and Candiotti is behind in the count, 3-0.
It's a statement for strong pitching, and the Dodgers really are making the same statement. Their starting pitching has been superb. Matter of fact, they lead the majors in earned run average.
3-1 now.
The Dodgers back in 1988, second in earned run average. 89 they were first. They fell to 7th in 90, but have been number 1 in 91 and 92.
And the biggest part of the 1988 season and several others since, Orel Hershiser. Orel's 6-3 this year. Morris started to first, and Brian Gorman said, stay right here. It's a full count.
What a remarkable year Hershiser had in 1988. He finished the season with 59 consecutive scoreless innings. That is a major league record, and then he went on to be the most valuable player in the '88 playoffs and the World Series.
The 3-2 pitch is high, and that's the first walk issued by Tom Candiotti. Without the caught stealing of Larkin at third base, you wonder what kind of an inning this might have been for Cincinnati. They still are up and swinging with 2 men on and 2 outs. That certainly changed the complexion of this frame. Chris Sabo, the 7th batter of the inning. And as we mentioned, he's off to a slow start. Again, affected by injury. 232 Sabo's average with only 4 homers. He had 26 last year.
On the disabled list, one of 9 Reds on the DL with a right sprained ankle in April.
That got away from Scioscia, and the runners advance. Now 2 men in scoring position as Sanders takes third, and Morris moves to second.
Whenever you see a catcher stabbing at a knuckleball, then you know that trouble is in the offing. You try to absorb a knuckleball. Whenever a catcher's hands are out that far, they're not as soft as they are back near the chest protector.
It is a pass ball charged to Scioscia, and the knuckleball is high. 2-1.
You may remember the All-Star game back in 1986 when Rich Gedman had to catch Charlie Huff. A pass ball in the 8th inning, and the National League came on to win that largely as a result of that pass ball by Huff.
3-1 the count. Sanders really bluffed down the line. Sabo swung at ball 4, and it's a full count. Peronoski in his 12th season as pitching coach of the Dodgers. Played a large part in that tradition of success that you saw on the graphic a moment ago. Offerman collided with Samwell, and they dropped him. 2-run score. This has been an absolutely pathetic display by the Dodgers in the field in the bottom of the first. It's 4-0 Cincinnati.
Tommy Lasorda with his head down, and Jose Offerman and Juan Samuel with their heads up, but not a heads-up play by either. The ball off the glove of Offerman, and we believe that it's going to be an error on Offerman, but it's actually been charged an error on Samuel for wandering into Offerman's neighborhood.
So 3 errors in the inning.
Boy, this is ugly right here. 3 errors in this inning, and the Dodgers could have been out of this inning without the Reds scoring a run had they executed the double play ball and now the drop ball, and it's 4-0 Dodgers. 3 unearned runs here in the first inning.
And the 8th batter of the inning is the catcher, Joe Oliver. Sabo back to first. Slowed by the injured ankle. Chris has only swiped 2. He's been thrown out 3 times. The Dodgers have now committed 54 errors this season. This is their 57th game. They are last in the league in fielding. Destined to stay that way. Benzinger makes the catch. Mercifully for Dodger fans and Tom Candiotti, the inning comes to an end. 4 runs on 3 Cincinnati hits and 3 Dodger errors. After 1, 4-0 Reds. Four runs in the bottom of the first. 3 of them earned, as hard as that is to believe. And we're going to check on that. 3 unearned runs now, we are told. That sounds a lot more like it. And Tim Belcher ready to face Todd Benzinger.
We brought up Barry Larkin's mistake of stealing third. Well, I think I ought to bring up my mistake. I said the National League won the All-Star game in '86. The American League won it 3-2. But Rich Gedman, in handling Charlie Huff's knuckleball, did have a bit of a problem allowing 1 run to score in the 8th inning. So I attempted to steal third with nobody out, also in the 1st inning. Bad play for both of us, huh?
They say confession is good for the soul.
Not for the job, but for the soul.
That's right. Certainly 4 runs good for Tim Belcher, something that he hasn't seen much of this year, run support. One thing he does see every day when he looks into his locker is a Rick Dempsey baseball card. He and Dempsey formed a close friendship when they were teammates with the Dodgers. They used to commute from their homes into Dodger Stadium together. And Tim credits Rick Dempsey with teaching him to keep an even temperament on the mound. Benzinger to second. Pip Roberts throws him out. Belcher has retired 4 in a row on 4 ground balls since walking Butler to start the ball game. Of course, Rick Dempsey is now working with the Baltimore Orioles, hoping to play at some point, but to this point the call has not gone out for his services from the team in need of a catcher. Juan Samuel at 281. He came off the disabled list last night. He's been out since late April with 2 fractured fingers on his left hand.
Missing 35 games, and that would probably prevent Samuel from striking out 120 times this year. He has done that 8 straight years, 120 or more strikeouts.
That's a pop-up in the direction of Barry Larkin. 2 outs in the top of the second. 4-0 Cincinnati. The Reds scored 3 unearned runs as a result of 3 Dodger errors in the bottom of the first. Mike Scioscia having a slow year with the bat. 190 is his average, 2 homers, and he has knocked in 19. Belcher to his former battery mate and the all-time leader in games caught by a Dodger, Mike Scioscia. 2-0 the count.
And usually if you're a catcher and a pitcher is traded away, you do have a bit of an advantage when you face that pitcher the next time. You know his tendencies, you know what he's going to throw behind in the count, and after all, Scioscia and Belcher working together and mastering technique of calling a game for 4 or 5 years with the Dodgers.
The 2-1 is pulled to right and right at Paul O'Neill. The Dodgers go quickly in order in the second after an inning and a half. 4-0 Cincinnati. Four runs for the Reds in the bottom of the first. 8 men face Tom Candiotti in that inning. And they'll face his opposite number, Tim Belcher, to start the second, and then Pip Roberts and Dave Martinez. Belcher leads off. He is 2 for 28 this year. And at the moment, trailing in the competition the Cincinnati pitchers have among themselves. They each threw $500 into a kitty, and the starting pitcher, who emerges at the end of the year with the most hits, is going to take all the money. Belcher has some work to do with just those 2. The surprising leader at the moment in that category is Greg Swindell. Spent the last 5 years in the American League with Cleveland, but he has 8 hits. Make that 6 hits and 8 total bases. Tom Browning has 5 hits. Jose Rijo and Chris Hammond still very much in contention for the $2,500 at the end of the year. We'll be keeping you up to date with those standings throughout the season.
What if you become a starter in the middle of the season?
You have a lot of catching up to do. Offerman couldn't get it. Belcher trying to climb back into that race with his 3rd hit of the year.
wonder if $2,500 is enough of an incentive with salaries nowadays. That was a slider from Tom Candiotti. Tom Candiotti with a 2-2 count against the pitcher, Tim Belcher, and Belcher's only his 3rd hit of the season.
Now Biff Roberts, who took a strike. Biff collected his 65th hit of the season with a leadoff single to center field in the 1st, and he scored the first of the 4 Reds runs. Knuckleball sails high and away.
Knuckleball, really a misnomer. Actually, knuckleballers throw the ball with the tips of their fingers. They have to keep their nails short. Think of Phil Niekro, Joe Niekro, Hoyt Wilhelm, a Hall of Famer. Another knuckleball to Roberts.
You told me when we worked the game involving Charlie Huff that you taught knuckleballers during your time. Is that something as a catcher that you look forward to as a challenge and something different in any way? Or
No, no, there is definitely a challenge involved, but it's not a challenge that you look forward to.
Roberts had the green light on 3-0, and it's 3-1. The scoreboard might be wrong on that count, and now it is. Biff waits as home plate umpire Brian Gorman signals the count is 2-2. Scoreboard still has not corrected it. Biff lifts it to deep right center. Benzinger waves off Butler and makes the catch. 1 out in the 2nd, 4-0 Cincinnati. Roberts now 1 for 2.
That was a knuckleball to Biff Roberts, and talking again to Candiotti about when it works best for him. He says when it's high humidity and almost no wind. I mean, when a no-wind situation, which is almost what the Dodgers put him in the 1st inning. Bit of a breeze this evening, but who could forget that those great shots last year from the Dome up in Toronto in the American League Championship Series when the Blue Jays hosted the Twins. Candiotti pitching and starting in Game 5 of that series. And those close-ups of that bug with no spin on it, they're more effective when there is less spin. When it starts rolling on you, that's when they're easy to hit.
Tom says domes are absolutely the best environment for a knuckleball pitcher. Martinez pops it in foul ground near the Dodger dugout. Lenny Harris did not get it.
But Ben Hines, the batting instructor, did. That ball didn't have enough elevation to give Harris a chance to camp under it. Batting instructor of the Dodgers, Ben Hines, right there and trying to protect Harris. Sometimes you just can't hide, can you, Ben? Ben should have called for a fair catch.
Sometimes you just can't catch either. Although I think he was more concerned with helping Harris than he was making a play on the ball. 0-2 on Martinez. Belcher at first with 1 out in the 2nd. 4-0 Cincinnati. That's popped up in shallow left for Cal Daniels. 2 outs.
Well, we just happened to have Tom Candiotti pitching in the Dome last year. And this is an idea of that dead spin or no spin at all from a knuckleball. You could tell that was a good one. All you have to do is look at that dead spin, and boy, that thing really dances.
Candiotti came over from the Blue Jays to the Dodgers in the offseason as a free agent. He signed a 4-year contract worth $15.5 million. Basically, the Dodgers lost Mike Morgan to free agency, but felt Candiotti would equal or surpass what Morgan did for them last year. And they lost Eddie Murray, but felt that the addition of Eric Davis would make up for that problem offensively. Candiotti's been super. Davis has been hurt.
And a team that was hurt also, the Toronto Blue Jays. They give away 2 fine prospects, outfield prospects, Glenn Allen Hill and Mark Whitten, also a left-handed pitcher, Denny Boucher, to Cleveland for Candiotti. and they had him for about a half a year. Interestingly, he was 7-6 with Cleveland and 6-7 with the first-place Blue Jays.
Larkin. That's a fair ball. Scioscia got him by a running step. And that's all for the Reds in the second. After 2 in Cincinnati, it's the Reds 4 and the Dodgers nothing. These two teams are familiar with each other. This is the 9th meeting in this 1992 season between the Reds and the Dodgers. Cincinnati leads the season series 5-3. This is just the second game between the two at Riverfront. The first was last night, the 4-3 Reds win. Here's Jose Offerman to begin the third. He's hitting .243 and has knocked in 10 runs. Tried to get out of the way and hit a tapper down to third. Sabo was playing in and throws him out. And that is 7 in a row retired by Tim Belcher since the leadoff walk in the first to Brett Butler. Tim faced his mates last Sunday. He's facing his former mates again today. Yesterday I asked him about that.
I didn't really let the fact that I was facing former teammates and a lot of very close friends enter into it, because I think if you let all that come into the equation of what you're trying to accomplish out there, your math's not going to be very good. And things are going to start getting into your head that shouldn't be there. And my job out there on the mound is worrying about throwing pitches, staying with my strengths, and not so much worrying about who's in the batter's box.
Tom Candiotti is in the batter's box at the moment with one out of the bases empty in the third. Candiotti, new to the National League, so hitting is new to him, and it shows. He's 2 for 24. We have reason to believe that Lou Piniella might have been hit by a foul ball as they've been working on his shoulder in the dugout. Candiotti thrown out by Larkin. 2 outs in the third. We know managing can be tough psychologically, emotionally. We didn't know physically that it was demanding until now.
They have catcher's equipment. Maybe they can come out with manager's equipment just to watch a game.
Now Brett Butler, the only Dodger to reach base for the first time through the order for Los Angeles. He walked on 4 pitches and was stranded at third. Dodgers trailing 4-0. And that could be problematic, even though it's early, because Los Angeles has been having difficulty scoring runs. The Dodgers are hitting just .248 as a team, and they've scored a National League low 202 runs. Sabo again in front of the bag at third for the speedy Butler. Lashed that foul into the third base seats.
I thought it was interesting, those comments about Belcher pitching to his former mates. He certainly established that he had forgotten that he was a Dodger with that performance last Sunday. I remember Jim Lonborg telling me the first time that he pitched against his ex-Boston Red Sox teammates, the first batter when he was with Milwaukee, he knocked down just to plant the seed that, hey guys, I'm no longer with you.
Strike 3. Butler called out of the breaking ball. That's the first strikeout of the ball game for Tim Belcher. We'll return to Riverfront Stadium after this message and a word from your local station. Third against Tom Candiotti. Paul O'Neill leads off. Reggie Sanders and Hal Morris to follow. The knuckleball from Candiotti is in the dirt. O'Neill bounced to the first baseman unassisted his first time up.
O'Neill leads the Reds in homers with 7 and RBIs with 32.
Paul was an all-star last year, named as a reserve to appear in the all-star game in Toronto. But at the moment, in the latest vote totals released earlier this week, Paul is not even in the top 16 among outfielders. They are the current lead. The 2-1 pitch fouled away, and it's 2-2. As we were saying, you had a look at the leading vote getters as of earlier this week in the National League. We'll check the outfield leaders for you in a moment as O'Neill strikes out. That's 4 in a row retired by Candiotti, and the strikeout is his first. Bonds, Strawberry, and Bonilla, the current leaders in the National League All-Star balloting in the outfield. And we apologize for the momentary audio problem. Reggie Sanders.
Got a shot at being in the dreaded Glitch Award on Monday.
Are you campaigning for it?
Well, in case they missed it.
That's right. Anything to get in print. Sanders thrown out by Lenny Harris. 2 outs in the third. That's 5 in a row. Retired by Candiotti. Sanders 1 for 2. He started really the second of the 2 rallies for the Reds in the first inning. They scored 4 runs in pairs of 2. And it was Sanders who scored the third of the 4 runs. Now Hal Morris, who walked and scored the final run of that 4-run first. We mentioned during his first at-bat that Hal is yet to hit a home run. He's never going to be a prolific power hitter in the opinion of Lou Piniella, but Lou feels he is capable of hitting 15 home runs a year and collecting 25 to 30 doubles. Boston leads Toronto. Ellis Burks and Phil Plantier with back-to-back home runs for the Red Sox. Mike Greenwell has hit one. Where did that power come from all of a sudden for Boston? And Chicago with Jack McDonough looking for his 9th win of the year. Leads Minnesota 4-0. Scott Erickson on the mound. Lito Perez and Dave Otto, the starters in Cleveland. The Yankees and Indians knotted at 1. And the count on Hal Morris is 2 balls and 2 strikes. The count is full. Knuckleball completely mesmerized Morris, who strikes out. 1, 2, 3 go the Reds for the first time. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Candiotti. It is helmet day here at Riverfront Stadium, and with those 3 errors, the Dodgers might want to borrow a couple of those helmets when they're in the field. They have committed 3 very costly errors and trail as a result 4-0 as we go to the 4th. The Dodgers have Lenny Harris, Cal Daniels, and Eric Karros coming up against Tim Belcher, who has retired 9 in a row since walking Brett Butler to start the game. That streak began with Lenny Harris, who bounced to third his first time up. Harris starting today at third base. Most of his action this year has come at second base. This is his 33rd start and only his 5th at third. We saw a lot of action at second in the absence of Juan Samuel when he was on the DL. Breaking ball in tight. 2 balls and a strike on Lenny Harris.
Anytime a right-hander starts against the Dodgers, you can look for Harris to be in there somewhere. He started every game where the Dodgers faced a right-handed pitcher last year, 94 of them.
Fastball a little bit low and in. 3-1. Another reason why Lenny is in the lineup today. Of course, it was as a Red when Belcher was a Dodger that Harris faced Belcher previously.
Belcher, a #1 round draft choice back in 1984 by the New York Yankees, and he never wore a Yankee uniform in the minors or the majors. He was a compensation draft pick by the Oakland Athletics for the Baltimore Orioles signing of Tom Underwood, the old left-handed pitcher.
Hopefully there will not be a quiz on that.
No, there won't be. Don't ask me to repeat it.
I'm amazed you could remember it.
Took me an hour and a half to rehearse it last night.
Harris strikes out. 2 strikeouts for Belcher, and they have come back-to-back as he fanned Butler to end the third. And it was during that strikeout of Butler that you referenced Jim Lonborg and said that he threw at his former mates to set the tone early, and that might come as a surprise to the fans who remember Jim Lonborg, who was known as Gentleman Jim, still very much a gentleman. He is now a dentist in Situate, Massachusetts, in suburban Boston, as the father of 6 children.
Went to dental school at Tufts University. What a gentleman he was, but things changed when he got on the mound. Cy Young Award winner for the 1967 Red Sox.
Cal Daniels, the hitter. Fastball for a strike. I saw Jim Lonborg at the old-timers game at Fenway Park a couple of weeks ago, and in keeping with his new role as a dentist, it was like pulling teeth, getting him to throw a strike in the old-timers game.
At least he didn't drill anybody.
1-1 the count. While we're at it, we're going for the cliche award, too. 2 balls and 1 strike the count. Well hit. That's the first Los Angeles hit. A solid single to right for Cal Daniels with 1 out in the 4th.
Think about how vital pitching is. I mean, the big cogs for the Los Angeles Dodgers are out of there. Darryl Strawberry and Eric Davis. But Cincinnati has had 9 players on the disabled list, and once again, no pitchers. And for that reason, pitching, their starting pitching in particular, has always given them a chance to win, and that's what good pitching will do.
Eric Karros fouled the first pitch away.
Eric Davis, he should be out for the month. He was at a fundraiser the other night here in Cincinnati.
That's back to the mound. Larkin turned it. 1-6-3. It ends the inning. And we go to the bottom of the 4th with the Reds on top, 4-0.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. Bic Men Shavers, there's a Bic for every beard. And by Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
4-0 Cincinnati as the Reds get ready to bat against Tom Candiotti in the bottom of the 4th.
Talking about Eric Davis at that fundraiser on Thursday night for the riot victims. Both Cincinnati Reds players and Dodger players appeared. Pete Rose was the master of ceremonies and introduced Eric. He said it's the worst haircut he's ever seen on Eric Davis, and Eric responded, "Pete, have you ever looked at yourself?"
First pitch of the bottom of the 4th, taken to right by Chris Sabo and handled by Benzinger. 1 out. Sabo now 0 for 2. Coming up next, 3rd round coverage of the Federal Express St. Jude Classic from the TPC at Southwind in Germantown, Tennessee, just outside Memphis. And the leaderboard through 2 rounds finds Dan Forsman on top by 2 strokes over Jim McGovern. It's in Tim McCarver's neck of the woods, and we congratulate you. You already had the stadium in Memphis named after you. Now you've had your jersey retired by the Memphis Chicks. I don't know what else.
Not much left.
No.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Joe Oliver, the batter. 1-1 the count. Oliver out on a fly ball to right his first time up.
Funny story about that. Steve Carlton was down at the celebration, and he signed autographs for 4 innings in a row until finally he got tired. And do you know where he sought refuge? In the press box.
No.
He did. He went to the press box to get away from everything.
Did he talk to the Knights of the Keyboard while
No,
he was
he
there?
just sat up there.
Base hit. Right center field. Oliver a wide turnaround first before putting on the brakes.
Good hitting by Joe Oliver. Joe Oliver taking on the likes of Al Oliver. You remember the first baseman, the contact hitter. There was no plate too wide for Al Oliver, and great piece of hitting by Joe right there on a ball about 6 inches outside. Pokes it to right center.
5 hits now off Candiotti. One of them belongs to Tim Belcher, who singled to center, his 3rd hit of the year, his first time up. One strike on Belcher as he missed while trying to bunt. We mentioned Tim Belcher's friendship with Rick Dempsey. While the Reds were in Philadelphia on a recent road trip and had an off day, he made a trip down to visit Rick Dempsey and also to see the new beautiful ballpark at Camden Yards. I got my first look at it earlier this week, and it is the best ballpark I've ever been in. That's a foul ball. Crowd cheering, thinking Oliver had reached second safely, but it was a foul ball on the count of 0-2 on Belcher. And Tim Belcher reports, not surprisingly, that Rick Dempsey could be elected mayor of Baltimore if he chose to run.
I've heard a lot about that ballpark, and that is really saying something. The best that you've ever been in. You consider Dodger Stadium, Wrigley Field, Fenway Park, the new Chicago White Sox, Comiskey Park. I have heard nothing but magnificent things said about the new Oriole Park.
Belcher tried to bunt with 2 strikes and fouled it off for the strikeout. That's the 2nd out of the inning, the 3rd strikeout this afternoon for Tom Candiotti. Well, I'd heard so much hype about it over the first couple of months of the season. I went to Baltimore thinking there is no way that the ballpark can be equal to all of the good things I've heard about it, and it really surpassed the already high expectations I had going in. Top of the order for the 3rd time in 4 innings, Bip Roberts. He singled and scored the first run in the first. He was out on a fly ball to right in the 2nd. He's batting with the Reds leading 4-0.
Caro's playing behind Joe Oliver at first base. You have a 4-run lead, a knuckleball pitcher pitching. Candiotti gets in ahead in the count. Good time for Oliver to run.
Joe has been thrown out trying to steal in his only attempt this year.
He's not a fast runner, but when you put the first baseman behind him and you consider the other factor, and now Karros is moving to first base, and Candiotti actually had a shot at him
He
before
sure
he
did,
made
because
that pitch.
Oliver had 1 foot up on the artificial turf.
Here it is right here. Karros coming in behind Oliver, and Candiotti really had a shot at him. Candiotti with an excellent move to first base, like most knuckleballers.
The pitch is strike. It's 2-1 on Bip Roberts.
The reason for that, they have to have better moves than most right-handed pitchers to first base, because they realize that most runners, even though they may not be fast, will be trying to run against them.
Oliver at first with 2 outs. The ball low and away, and it's 3 balls and a strike. Even though he's from the San Francisco Bay Area, Tom Candiotti grew up a Dodger fan. He admitted yesterday that that was a little bit dangerous. Oliver is running. The pitch is strike. The throw got him. Offerman applied the tag. Scioscia guns down his 2nd would-be base stealer of the game. And that's all for the Reds in the 4th after 4, Cincinnati 4, and Los Angeles nothing.
You're watching CBS Sports coverage of Major League Baseball.
Cincinnati leads 4-0, and at the conclusion of today's game, Tim McCarver and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the game. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in the player's name to the Special Olympics. Cincinnati native Todd Benzinger leads off for the Dodgers as we go to the 5th. Todd was out on a bounding ball to second base his first time up. Juan Samuel and Mike Scioscia to follow against Tim Belcher. Benzinger, another of the Dodgers who is a former Red. Todd still makes his home here in Cincinnati. He product of New Richmond High School in the Cincinnati area. Oh, and 2. Benzinger came up through the Boston Red Sox system about the same time Mike Greenwell, Ellis Burks, and Jody Reed were top Boston prospects. And Ted Williams worked with the minor league hitters back then. He thought Benzinger had the best potential to be an outstanding major league hitter among all of them. Thought he had a terrific natural swing. Lately, Greenwell and Burks would have to be termed disappointments, and Benzinger is still looking for a place where he can play consistently. Strike 3. Benzinger caught looking at the breaking ball right down the middle.
Earlier we talked about the All-Star game coming up July 14th in San Diego, and 3 guys who may be members of the All-Star team for the American League. Brady Anderson, 42 RBIs, 10 home runs, 19 stolen bases. He has played a terrific right field for the Orioles. Jeff Reardon only 1 save behind Raleigh Fingers, 340 now, 13 this season.
Base hit for Juan Samuel. Past the lunge of Vip Roberts. Jeff Reardon has only had 1 save opportunity since May 28th. So Raleigh Fingers still has his place in the record books secure at the moment as a result of the Red Sox inability to get Reardon into save situations. And Kirby Puckett continues to lead the American League in batting average and runs driven in. We can bank on seeing him in San Diego on July 14th.
But can Twins fans bank on seeing him in Minnesota next year?
Bank being the operative word.
Correct.
Carl Pohlad in the ownership of the Twins. At this point, they have been unable to get together on a contract extension for Kirby. Mike Scioscia, the hitter. 4-0 Cincinnati. We're in the top of the 5th. Samuel at first and 1 out. And now 1-1 on Scioscia. You have to wonder, the longer that negotiation drags on, the longer Cal Ripken's talks go on with the Baltimore Orioles, it doesn't increase the likelihood that those 2 superstars will wind up elsewhere next year. They're starting to talk about that in Baltimore as well. The possibility, the unthinkable possibility for an Oriole fan that Cal Ripken won't be wearing the Baltimore uniform next year. He is reported to be offered $30 million over 5 years, an average of $6 million a year, but at least at the moment for Ripken it's not enough. Joe Amalfitano through the signs in the third base coach's box for Mike Scioscia with the count 3-1.
In most years, usually April and the early part of May filled with salary stories about players, and then they go away. This year's been an exception. They have persisted into June.
Ball 4 to Scioscia. That's the second walk issued by Belcher in the first he has issued since he walked Butler to start the ball game.
Tim Cruz now warming up for the Dodgers. But back to that financial point, fiduciary point, a lot of people thinking that red ink that the owners have cried about over the last decade may be real.
There was an item in the paper over the last couple of days. The Detroit Tigers had to borrow $5 million to meet their payroll. Offerman, the batter. He bounced to third his first time up. Chance for the Dodgers to get back into the game here. First and second and 1 out. And Offerman takes a strike. And as a result, Tim, of the uncertain financial future with the television contracts coming toward their end, guys like Ripken and Puckett and Barry Bonds and Wade Boggs are taking a big chance.
That's right.
By turning down $6 million a year now, that might be the best offer that they wind up having when all is said and done. Ruben Sierra, another who fits into that category.
Of course, the pessimists cry that it may take a team to go belly up before the Players Association realize that they may have peaked as far as their salaries are concerned.
The runner at second is Samwell. At first, Socha with one out in the fifth. 4-0 Cincinnati. Late swing and a foul ball off to the left. The count even at 2-2.
Of course, borrowing $5 million to meet your payroll, nothing compared to the government. I mean, we owe $3 trillion. I mean, that's a piece of cake. So if the government can owe $3 trillion, I mean, why can't the Tigers borrow $5 million? That'll leverage you out. It's good business sense.
Indeed it is, but it certainly is an ominous precedent, you would think, with the teams continuing to insist that their financial picture is looking more and more bleak. And there's a dozen teams available to be sold, we are told, around Major League Baseball at the moment. Offerman strikes out, called out. Apparently he did not agree with the call of Brian Gorman. 2 strikeouts in the inning, 4 in the game now for Belcher.
Looked like a fastball on the outside corner from Belcher. And it had a lot of the plate. I guess Offerman questioning whether it was low enough. Nasty pitch from Tim Belcher.
Number 15, Dave Hansen.
Candiotti scheduled a bat against Belcher, but Oliver and Belcher discuss the pinch hitter who is coming to the plate. Dave Hansen is going to bat for Candiotti. So you have to feel for the knuckleballer today, as he allowed 4 runs all in the first inning and 3 of them unearned. So here's Hansen for the year, hitting .219. 4 homers, 8 runs batted in. He is 3 for 10 as a pinch hitter, including a pinch hit home run. That's the score with 2 on and 2 out for the Dodgers in the fifth. And ball 1 is low to Hansen. Late swing for strike 1.
Hansen's first major league home run came as a pinch hitter last July 20th against the Mets. It was a 3-run shot and turned the game around for the Dodgers. Dodgers went on to beat New York, and that looked like what he was trying to do with that last swing.
In the dirt, good block by Oliver, and a ball that bounced out in front of the plate. Brian Gorman will take a look at it. Dodgers criticized in recent years for not developing enough of their own players through the farm system. We're starting to see that change now with Karros and Offerman regulars, and Hansen has seen plenty of action this year. He started 28 games at third. He's taking another ball in the dirt. Belcher wants another new ball as the count goes to 3-1 on Hansen. Count, and with 2 outs, the runners will be off with Belcher's next pitch. Hansen is a native Southern California. He's from Long Beach. The runners go. It's ball 4, low and inside. So the bases are loaded, and the tying run will come to the plate for the Dodgers here in the 5th. 2 walks in the inning. 3 in the ball game now, thrown by Belcher. Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, on his way to the mound. There is no action in the Cincinnati pen. You can update Belcher's walk total to 3 now, including the 2 in this inning. And for those of you who are just joining us, the big news item of the day around Major League Baseball, the report in the New York Daily News this morning that George Steinbrenner will take control of the Yankees again, but not until the start of the 1993 season. Bill Madden's report in the Daily News indicates that that announcement will come from the commissioner's office on Monday. That Steinbrenner will not be allowed to be involved in any baseball activity until the start of the 93 season. Bases loaded for Brett Butler. Juan Samuel is the runner at third. Mike Scioscia at second. And at first, Dave Hansen. 4-0 Cincinnati in the 5th inning. Down to third, juggled by Sabo. Low throw, scooped by Morris. And the Dodgers leave them loaded. They've now sprinted 4. And halfway through this one, it's the Reds 4 and the Dodgers nothing. Halfway through the ball game, Cincinnati leads 4-0, and the second Dodger pitcher of the day is right-hander Tim Cruz. He's ready to face the top of the order. Ball 1 high and away to Biff Roberts.
Cruz with more appearances by any Dodger pitcher over the last 3.5 years. That's a splitter right there. Traded along with Tim Leary back in 1986 for Greg Brock. One Tim stayed, the other Tim went to the Yankees via Cincinnati.
Samuel throws Roberts out. Biff now 1 for 3. And in all candor, Greg Brock's career really fizzled quickly when he went to Milwaukee.
He was a minor league prospect with the Dodgers, and a lot of the Dodger power hitters make their stop at AAA Albuquerque, which is very high, and the balls carry very well there. A guy like Mike Marshall, who had a tremendous minor league career, Greg Brock, Eric Karros, another guy who had tremendous numbers at Albuquerque, and that can be deceptive. Home runs that are home runs down there are not home runs in the major leagues.
Makes it difficult to truly judge your prospects. Martinez fouled one off his foot, and it's 0-2. Bill Russell now managing that Albuquerque ball club. Martinez 0 for 2 today. He did reach on the error by Offerman, the first of the 3 errors in the disastrous first for the Dodgers, and he was out on a fly ball to left in the second. Late swing and a foul off to the left. Still 0-2. Lined and caught by Samuel. 2 outs in the 5th. 4-0 Cincinnati. And striding to the plate, Barry Larkin. He had the loudest hit of the 4-run first, a 2-run double into the left field corner. He's 1 for 2. He had a chopper out in front of the plate in the second and was thrown out by Scioscia. Barry speaks fluent Spanish. He studied Spanish during his 3 years at the University of Michigan, and in his brief time in the minor league system of the Cincinnati Reds, he made it a point to room with Latin roommates so he could work on his Spanish. They tell us that when Mariano Duncan was here with the Reds, they frequently communicated around the second base bag in Spanish. The 1-1, low and away.
Mentioned the University of Michigan. 3/4 of the infield for the Cincinnati Reds went to the University of Michigan. Hal Morris, the first baseman, Chris Sabo, the third baseman, and Barry Larkin.
Popped up in shallow center. Samuel makes the catch. Cruz works a 1-2-3 first. We'll return to Riverfront Stadium after this message and a word from your local station. Nothing Cincinnati. All of the runs coming in the bottom of the first. 3 of them unearned as a result of 3 first-inning Dodger errors. Tim Belcher is working on a 2-hit shutout through 5 for Cincinnati. He'll face batters 2, 3, and 4 in the Los Angeles batting order in the 6th. Lenny Harris leading off. Ball 1. Harris is 0 for 2 this afternoon. He has bounced to third and struck out. To center field, and Dave Martinez with a routine play. 1 out. Boston still leads Toronto 5-2 in the 3rd game of that 4-game series. Jack McDonough working on the shutout for Chicago into the 5th of the Metrodome. Yankees in Cleveland still knotted at 1. Melito Perez and Dave Otto the starters. Cal Daniels the batter. Grounded down to first to Morris. On to Belcher. 2 quick outs in the Los Angeles 6th.
Tim Belcher, one of the few pitchers that throws a cross-seam fastball that is heavy when a hitter hits it. Most high ball pitchers, and Belcher certainly a high ball pitcher with his fastball, the ball is very light when it makes contact with the bat. Well, not so Belcher. He's one of the few guys around that can throw that high fastball, and you hit it, and it's like hitting an anvil. The crunch instead of a click. And the way the ball comes off a batter's bat, obviously very important determining base hits. Comes off with that lightness. That means the bat has the it's the bat doing the work.
Eric Karros is 0 for 2. He bounced into a 1-6-3 double play his last time up. He's even in the count here. 1 ball and 1 strike. Karros says he patterns himself after Steve Garvey. He wants to be a steady performer who shows up to play every day. Eric says, I'm not the kind of player that is going to grab your attention, but by the end of the season, I think I can wind up hitting 280 or 290 with 20 to 25 home runs and between 80 and 90 runs batted in. If he can do that, the Dodgers will be very happy. He's trying to add to his home run total here with a deep drive to left, and it is gone. Team-leading home run number 8 of the season for Eric Karros, and the Dodgers are on the board. It's 4-1.
Another oddity about Tim Belcher is he does not give up a lot of home runs. He gave up 10 last year, and this is only the 4th home run of the season given up by Belcher. Tim tried to ride the fastball in on Eric, and Karros crushes it to left field.
Belcher had pitched 28 innings without allowing a home run before the long ball by Eric Karros.
And if you're looking for another home run in this game, forget it for the most part. 59 games has Belcher gone without allowing more than 1 home run in a game.
He doesn't have to do that very often.
It's a rather drastic response to just 1 home run.
Stick around to work with that 3-run lead, Tim. It's a strike to Todd Benzinger, who is 0 for 2 today. Fouled at the plate. 1-2. on Benzinger. We're in the top of the 6th, and the Reds lead 4-1. They are out hitting the Dodgers 5-3. The big number in the line score, the 3 errors for the Dodgers, all of them in the first. 83 pitches through 5 2/3 innings for Tim Belcher. Benzinger strikes out. 5 strikeouts for Belcher. And Eric Karros has the Dodgers on the board on his 8th home run of the season. It's 4-1 Cincinnati. Sean McDonough with Tim McCarver, our producer Rick LaCivita, our director Bob Fishman. Delighted to have you with us from Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. The homestanding Reds lead 4-1 as they bat against Tim Cruz. With Paul O'Neill leading off. Off Cruz and into center field, a base hit. That's the 6th hit for Cincinnati, the first at the expense of Tim Cruz, who's pitched an inning plus. And O'Neill ends his long hitless drought. He had been 0 for 19 prior to that hit. Now Reggie Sanders, who doubled and scored in the first. He bounced to third in the 3rd. Strike 1. O'Neill with 3 stolen bases. He has been thrown out twice trying to steal. Ball swiped 12 last year for the Reds. Well hit, hooking, foul. It had home run distance, but Sanders hooked it foul just in front of the foul pole. It's 330 down the left field line here at Riverfront.
Awesomely quick. When you realize how quick you have to be in order to hit a ball up and in on the good part of the bat. You have to be much faster with your hands than you do to hit a ball down and in. And I mean, you talk about quick hands for Reggie Sanders. Why a lot of people are touting him for Rookie of the Year honors before the season began. And now entering the game batting .313.
That bounced way out in front of Scioscia, and O'Neill moves to second. A wild pitch and then some charge to Tim Cruz.
That 1-1 pitch to Reggie Sanders, that ball up and in, and I mean lightning fast with those hands. That takes an awful lot of talent to hit a ball in that location with the barrel of the bat, just hooking it foul.
So runner in scoring position with nobody out. O'Neill at second. Reds trying to build on a 4-1 lead, and Sanders strikes out for the first out of the inning. That's the first strikeout for Cruz, the 4th for Dodger pitching today.
Looked like a slider from Tim Cruz after seeing how quick Sanders was on that pitch inside. No way is Tim coming back in on the hand. Good slider from Cruz.
And he is pitching around Hal Morris, the left-handed hitter. Chris Sabo on deck. This will set up first and second and 1 out. He'll try for the inning-ending double play with Sabo. This is just the second walk thrown by Los Angeles pitching today.
Tom Candiotti really deserved a better fate in the first inning. With Bip Roberts at first, this ball hit hard by Dave Martinez, squirts through the legs of shortstop Jose Ackerman, and now off the leg of Juan Samuel. 2 errors on 1 play. It set it up for Barry Larkins to drive in the first 2 runs. And then with 2 out and runners at second and third, a bobbled pop-up that could have put the Dodgers out of the game. And that's why it's 4-1 instead of 1-0 Dodgers. The Dodgers should have been out of that first inning without a run scoring.
It was Sabo who hit the pop-up that was dropped. No RBI credited to Sabo as a result of the error. 1 strike the count. O'Neill at second. Morris at first. With 1 out. Fouled out of play first base side. Sabo in the hole, 0-2. Cruz is from the Tampa, Florida area. Born, raised, and still makes his home in Tampa Bay. He's 31 years old. His 0-2 pitch, well outside. A ball and 2 strikes on Sabo.
There are not too many pure pull hitters in baseball anymore, but Chris Sabo's one of them. That's why the Dodgers try to stay away, away, away.
That was away and pulled down to third off the glove of Harris. Offerman a nice play to back it up, but he could not make a play on Morris. And the bases are loaded with 1 out. Sabo hit it sharply, but it was a ball that could have been handled by Lenny Harris.
You saw Socia move outside, and look where this pitch is, and Sabo still pulls it off the glove of Lenny Harris. Nice play by Offerman to recover, but too late at second base. A base hit for Chris Sabo.
His first and the 7th Cincinnati hit. They pitched around Morris, and they got what they wanted, a double play ball potentially, but they could not turn it. Now it's Oliver with the bases full. Oliver hit a big home run last night. He's batting with O'Neill at third, Morris at second, and Sabo at first. The home run last night for Oliver was his 3rd. Off the end of the bat, 1-1. Reds trying to break open a 4-1 game. With the bases loaded and 1 out in the 6th. These have not been the happiest days for Tommy Lasorda. His club has lost 7 of 10. Away. And almost got Vin Scully off to our right.
Vinny's still quick to his right, however. The old left-hander is still quick to his right.
As you might expect, he's seen a number of those in his direction over the years. Didn't even flinch. We were all ducking a booth away.
Right.
Here he comes again. No chance on that play for Scully. 1-2 the count on Oliver. Joe is one of those guys, when you listen to the talk shows in Cincinnati, you hear the fans saying a lot of bad things about him. They feel that the Reds could be improved in the catching department. That's through the middle, but not completely. A ball dropped by Samwell. It is an out at second. They forced Sabo, but they could not turn the double play, and O'Neill scores. It's 5-1.
Well, I think more than blaming Juan Samuel here, you got to really give credit to Chris Sabo. Remember, we talked about that sprained ankle of his. He was on the disabled list for 15 days with that. And really busting it to second base to bust into Samuel. Fine play by Chris Sabo. He was out with second base umpire Terry Tata saying that he did try to throw the ball to first and not dropped out of the glove. Ball hit fairly well, but Samuel, in his haste to get rid of it, allows Sabo that extra step, and Sabo barreling into Samuel, and the Reds have another run.
The RBI for Oliver, his 16th of the year. First and third and 2 outs, and Belcher has his 2nd hit of the game. It's 6-1 as Morris scores. Well, Belcher came into this ball game 2 for 28 this year, and he's 2 for 3 today.
The Dodgers failing to execute the double play in the first inning. It led to 4 runs, and now the failure to execute the double play here in the 6th inning has led to at least 2 runs. But once again, a great play by Chris Sabo.
Base hit for Bip Roberts down the left field line. Oliver around to score. Belcher will be held at third. It's an RBI double for Bip Roberts. And a 7-1 Cincinnati lead. Now 4 hits in the inning off Tim Cruz.
And the meter's still running. Bip Roberts, the fork ball away, and he just spanks it the other way. Joe Oliver scores easily. Belcher to third. And now a 7-1 lead for Cincinnati.
And second and third with 2 outs for Dave Martinez. Fastball for strike 1. No errors posted in this inning, Tim, but
no.
Another example of the Dodgers' poor fielding hurting them, as Harris couldn't make the play on the ground ball down to him. And the Dodgers couldn't turn 2 when Samuel dropped the ball trying to turn it.
It's interesting, you know, when the Dodgers won the World Series back in 1988, they had a very porous defense. Their defense was poor, but their pitching was of a caliber to overcome all of the mistakes behind them.
That's well hit down the right field line. A fair ball into the corner. Belcher has scored, and here comes Roberts to make it 9-1. Speeding toward third is Martinez. He is safe with a triple.
Of dismay in the Dodger dugout, and with good reason. The fork ball hit hard down the right field line by Dave Martinez. 2-run score, and Martinez has his 3rd triple of the year.
And the 9th batter of the inning all of a sudden is Barry Larkin. 2 runs driven in on that ball by Martinez. He's knocked in 12 this year. And the Reds are routing the Dodgers at 9-1 in the 6th inning with 5 runs here in the 6th and 4 in the 1st. Larkin's thought about pulling the trigger. It's a strike and a count of 0-2. Barry's 1 for 3 today. He had a 2-run double down the left field line in the 1st inning. Foul down toward Sam Perlazzo in the third base coach's box.
Here is that play once again with the bases loaded and 1 out. Joe Oliver hits the ball hard enough to be turned into a double play. Offerman does his job. Samuel can't get it out of his glove cleanly. And Chris Sabo barreling into Samuel. And that slide was worth 4 more runs, maybe 5 runs. Because had they turned the double play, the inning's over.
The 0-2 pitch is low and away. Martinez at third with 2 outs. Well, Larkin wasn't even the shortstop on his Little League team here in the Cincinnati area, because on his team was a young man by the name of Leo Cardenas Jr., whose dad, Leo, was an infielder for the Reds from 1960 through 68 and a fine player.
Great player, really was.
Base hit. Well, he's not so bad himself. Here comes Martinez with the 6th run of the inning. It is 10-1. 3 runs batted into the game. 20 now for the year for Barry Larkin.
We have seen the Cincinnati Reds hit some, as far as location is concerned, some terrific pitches from Tim Cruz. I mean, this ball's off the plate 4 inches. Larkin looking out there and lining one the other way. Chris Sabo hitting a slider off the plate.
Paul O'Neill started this inning with a single to center. Tried to check his swing and could not. O'Neill 1 for 3 today with his single here in the 6th. He scored the first of the 6 runs. I mentioned at the outset, O'Neill, the leader in home runs on the Cincinnati ball club. They've only hit 29 as a team. Last year, they led the league with 164. Weekly down to first. Karros makes the play himself. And a long 6 comes to an end. 6 more on the board for the Reds. And after 6, they lead 10-1. The Reds have scored in big bunches. 4 in the first, 6 in the 6th. And they lead 10-1 as we go to the 7th. Barry Larkin has driven in 3 runs today, and his day is complete. He has been replaced at shortstop by Freddie Benavides. Tim Belcher has gone all the way for Cincinnati. He's up and in with ball 1 to Juan Samuel. Belcher has allowed only 3 hits and 1 run on the home run by Karros last inning. Walked 3 and struck out 5. He's even with Samuel with a ball and a strike. Juan has popped to short and single to center. Samuel, Scioscia, and Offerman scheduled. I mentioned Belcher pitched against his former mates last Sunday at Dodger Stadium. That's the combined line of those 2 starts against his former mates. Most impressive indeed. He said he wasn't conscious of facing his teammates, his ex-teammates, last week as much as he was conscious of being on the mound at Dodger Stadium, where he had so much success in a Los Angeles uniform. His lifetime record at Dodger Stadium is 32-16. Yankees have pulled away from Cleveland. That game was knotted at 1 for a while. It's now 4-1. The only Cleveland run on a home run by Carlos Baerga. Samuel with a pop-up in shallow left center. Dave Martinez to catch. Coming up next, it's 3rd round coverage of the Federal Express St. Jude Classic from the TPC at Southwind in Germantown, Tennessee, outside Memphis. Rain causing problems there yesterday. They completed the 2nd round this morning. The 3rd round is underway, and Jim McGovern has moved into a tie for the lead with Dan Forsman. What a great race they have for the lead down there at the Federal Express St. Jude Classic, with 8 players just 1 stroke off the pace. They miss you down there for the Pro-Am this year.
Yeah. Thankfully for the spectators. Had a chance to play in the Pro-Am the last couple of years with Lanny Watkins.
Are you saying that you've done your best President Ford imitation?
Yes,
golf
I have.
Balls into the gallery. Belcher ahead of Scioscia, 0-2. These 2 teams had some bad blood between the 2 of them last year. Norm Charlton admitted that he threw at Mike Scioscia. Belcher was on the other side back then. Two balls and 2 strikes.
Reds have certainly given Tim Belcher a lot of runs with which to work today after losing 1-0 in his last start.
Nice play. The backhand when Pitt Roberts. 2 outs.
Matter of fact, it's worth repeating that the Cincinnati Reds have scored twice as many runs today for Belcher as they have in his last 4 starts.
He's probably thinking to himself, hey, fellas, spread these runs out a little bit. 10-1 Cincinnati. We're in the 7th. 2 outs and the base is empty. And Jose Offerman looked at ball 1 low. He's 0 for 2 today. Has bounced to third and looked at a called third strike. In the hole. Long throw for Benavides, and it gets away from Hal Morris. Offerman will try for second. Morris with the throw. He's a dead duck. Down by 9. Offerman runs into the final out at second base. 7th inning stretch at Riverfront. Still 10-1 Cincinnati. Sean McDonough with Tim McCarver at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. The Reds lead 10-1 as they bat against Tim Cruz in the 7th. Foul ball by Reggie Sanders. He's 1 for 3, a first inning double and a run scored. He struck out in his only at bat against Cruz this afternoon. That was last inning during the 6th run Cincinnati 6th. Al Morris and Chris Sabo scheduled to follow. Cruz just missed. 1 ball, 1 strike. With Morris on deck. Looking at 24-year-old Reggie Sanders. Florence, South Carolina. There's a 7th round draft pick. Pretty good guy to come up with in the 7th round.
And it's really unfair to both Eric Davis and Reggie Sanders for Sanders to be compared with Eric Davis. But he is an enormous talent. And the strange thing is, how did 170 players or so pass before he was drafted?
Base hit. Another pretty good piece of hitting by Reggie Sanders, who is 2 for 4 this afternoon.
That play that ended the top of the 7th inning, Jose Offerman, when you're trailing by 9 runs, you're forced into more of a passive game, and Offerman thrown out at second base. And that turn he made was by way of Dayton. He was in shallow right.
Base hit for Hal Morris. Sanders stops at second as Benzinger got to it quickly. That is 8 hits now surrendered by Cruz in 2 innings plus.
This play ended the top of the 7th inning, but look how far out Jose Offerman is. He even looks at his third base coach. He took a glance at Joey Amalfitano and then is thrown out at second base. But not a good piece of base running by Jose Offerman. When you're trailing by 9, you have to play it 1 base at a time.
Maybe he was looking for the should I go back to first base sign. That might have been the only advice Joey would have given him. To be fair to Offerman, last Sunday in the 1-0 win at Dodger Stadium for the Dodgers in the matchup between Candiotti and Belcher, the run scored when Offerman went from first to third on a sacrifice bunt.
A bunt play that the Dodgers were working on in spring training. Offerman taking off, and the ball bunted to Belcher. He made the tag on Candiotti, and Offerman just kept going around second base, sliding into third, and eventually scored on a hit by Butler.
Sabo to deep center. Sanders tags and takes third as Butler's throw comes to second base. So first and third with 1 out in the 7th. The Reds already lead 10-1. Sabo's now 1 for 4. that brings up Joe Oliver. Breaking ball in the dirt. Good block by Scioscia with Sanders at third.
Mike Scioscia has caught more games for the Dodgers, that includes Brooklyn, than any other catcher. You consider the great Dodger catchers, Roy Campanella, John Roseboro, Steve Yeager, terrific defensive catcher. Tom Haller for a few years, the manager of the Mets, Jeff Torborg, as a backup catcher to Roseboro. Rock hard solid right there.
Still blocks the plate better than anybody. Matter of fact, in that series at Dodger Stadium between these two, Arnold was sort of still griping about a call that didn't go his way when he thought Scioscia had blocked Braggs away from the plate, but Braggs was ruled safe at a 5-4 Cincinnati win. 3-0 on Oliver. Pitcher Belcher due up next. But there is the hitter in the on-deck circle for Belcher. Scott Bradley is waiting to bat. Here it comes. Right back in our direction. The count is full. On the subject of Dodger catchers, interesting to see that Mr. Lasorda has been trying his hand at catching the knuckleball of Tom Candiotti out in the bullpen. Tom Lasorda made a wager that he could catch at least 5 out of 10 knuckleballs, and he claims that he did, although one of the articles I read in the Los Angeles paper said he caught only 6 out of 20. Depends on who you believe. I believe Tom.
I believe it.
Popped up for Offerman. 2 outs. Tommy Lasorda, there he is catching the knuckleball. He pitches about 45 minutes of batting practice a day. He still swims regularly. As a matter of fact, in September, he's going to turn 65 years of age. Tommy told me yesterday on his 63rd birthday, he swam 100 laps in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. On birthday 64, it was 101 laps in the Olympic pool. And this year, on his 65th birthday, he said it'll be 102 laps of swimming, because it'll take him about 2.5 hours to do it. Scott Bradley, the hitter. The former Seattle Mariner catcher who was let go by that ball club earlier in the season.
After that comment about Tommy's conditioning, we caught him in mid-yawn.
I'd be tired after all that exercise. Bradley's only been to the plate 4 times as a Red with 1 hit. Like Tom Lasorda, Scott Bradley, a man who has no problem in his relationship with the media. His brother Jeff is the beat writer who covers the New York Yankees.
Gives you quite an advantage when you have a writer in the family. Doesn't matter whether you're a player or an announcer.
The 2-2 is lined to the center. And Scott Bradley will have reason to be quoted after the ball game. He drives in Sanders with the 11th Cincinnati run of the game.
We'll explain that. Sean McDonough's dad, if you do not know, is Will McDonough, who has been writing for the Boston Globe for years.
A lot of years.
A lot of years. Scott Bradley lining in the 11th run, and it's a laugher for Cincinnati and a yawner for the Dodgers.
And they're leaving Cruz out there to save the wear and tear on the rest of the pitching staff, obviously, as he has surrendered 9 hits now in 2 2/3 innings. And 7 runs. First and second with 2 outs for Biff Roberts, who looked at a ball low.
tell you, I've never been able to understand that comment that you would rather lose 2-1 or 3-2 or 4-3 and 11-1. I think the 11-1 games are worse.
Roberts' liner handled by Samuel. Bips now 2 for 5. One more for the Reds in the 7th. Eleven to 1 Cincinnati as we go to the 8th, and the new pitcher for the Reds is Scott Ruskin, the left-hander.
Scott was one of the better curveballs around, a converted outfielder in the Pittsburgh Pirate organization. He went from Pittsburgh to Montreal and over to Cincinnati with Dave Martinez in the John Wetland deal. Wetland originally coming from the Dodger organization.
Ruskin greeted by a pinch hitter, Stan Javier, batting for the pitcher Cruz. 1 strike on Javier. Stan, the most frequently used pinch hitter by Tom Lasorda. He's 4 for 22 in a pinch hitting capacity with 1 pinch home run. For the year, he's hitting 156, a home run 5 knocked in. Took a ball just outside. So a terrific effort by the Cincinnati starter, Tim Belcher, who worked 7 innings and allowed 1 run on 4 hits, including the home run by Karros, the only Los Angeles run to this point. Belcher walked 3 and struck out 5. He will level his record at 6-6 with a win here today. Javier out on the ground ball to second. Now let's check the Rolaids relief standings in the American League. Dennis Eckersley is running away. 22 saves without blowing a single save opportunity. Greg Olson of Baltimore second. It's a much tighter race on the senior circuit. Norm Charlton of Cincinnati 4 points ahead of Houston's Doug Jones. Brett Butler 0 for 2 with a walk his first time up. He looked at a ball low. Eckersley continues to amaze.
Unbelievable. 22 saves, no blown saves this year. Over 100 wins as a starter, over 100 saves as a reliever.
And a man who is continuing to write his ticket to Cooperstown. It looked like his career was winding toward its close when he went to Oakland. And now you have to talk about him as a very serious candidate for the Hall of Fame. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, here in Cincinnati, many folks noted about a month ago that Pete Rose has passed the 1,000-day mark of his banishment from Major League Baseball. Bip Roberts. Morris dug it out, and Butler is the second out of the inning. Nice play on both ends by Morris and by Bip Roberts. Major League Baseball continues on CBS Sports next Saturday with Baseball 92 at 2:30 Eastern Time, followed by the San Diego Padres at the San Francisco Giants from Candlestick Park. That's next Saturday at 2:30 Eastern here on CBS Sports. Mike Sharperson stands in to bat for Lenny Harris, who is 0 for 3 today. Both managers with a chance to empty the bench in this laughter. It's 11-1 Cincinnati in the 8th inning.
San Diego Padres, by the way, a much improved ball club. Gary Sheffield having a terrific year along with Fernandez and Fred McGriff. As a matter of fact, the case could be made that those 3 should be the starters on the in the All-Star game on July 14th. But the fans have not voted accordingly.
Of course, you'll see the All-Star game on July 14th from San Diego here on CBS. Mentioned a couple of times today the vote totals in the National League, and none of the Cincinnati Reds doing particularly well. Paul O'Neill seeming to be the most deserving Cincinnati Red for All-Star consideration, not even in the top 16. But Lou Piniella thinks that's because of the fact we've mentioned several times that the Reds have played fewest home games in all of Major League Baseball, and their fans haven't had a chance to vote for their hometown hero.
They played 12 out of 16 at home during this current stretch, so perhaps you'll see the Reds moving up. It helps that today they have 41,461 fans in attendance. A full count with 2 outs and the bases empty in the 8th. 11-1 Cincinnati. We showed you the National League leaders position by position. They're the current leaders in the American League. A bit of a surprise at catcher. Again, Toronto draws very well, leading the majors in home attendance. We'll show you the outfield in a moment. There's ball 4 to Sharperson, a 2-out base runner in the 8th. Ken Griffey Jr., Kirby Puckett, and Dave Winfield, the leading vote getters in the American League outfield.
Interesting thing about Ken Griffey Jr., he was just yesterday put on the disabled list for the Seattle Mariners, but presently the leading vote getter.
He has an injured right wrist, does Ken Griffey. Now Cal Daniels, 1 for 3 with a single to right in the 4th off the starter Belcher. Talked about some of the off-the-field news being made around baseball, including George Steinbrenner's apparent return next season. And the Tigers borrowing $5 million to meet their payroll. Well, the best news of the week off the field was in Seattle. And the ownership committee approved the sale of the Mariners by Jeff Smullyan to the Baseball Club of Seattle, ensuring that that franchise will remain in the Pacific Northwest as it should. 2.1 million fans at the Kingdome last year to see a team that struggled to finish barely above 500. They're certainly worthy of keeping a ball club in that beautiful city. Breaking ball and a good one from Ruskin. 1-2.
And we talked about the red ink that's flowing, according to some owners. And yet, here the Seattle Ball Club is sold for a $29 million profit by Jeff Smullyan, who paid $77 million in 1989 and hauls in $106 million for the sale.
Down the line and left, and a long run for Reggie Sanders to the stands. He doesn't have a play. It's 2 rows deep.
Actually, the sale was $125 million, but $19 million will be left for operating of the club. So the present owners get a return that's pretty healthy on $77 million. So if the owners continue to line up to buy franchises and the money's there, where's the red ink? So maybe the Players Association does have a point.
Well, the owner's side will say there are about 10 other teams up for sale right now, and very few nibbles for those ball clubs. The Seattle situation might have been different because it was a community-owned group, community-run group, trying to save the team for that community. Out on the ground ball to second is Cal Daniels. And we go to the bottom of the 8th. 11-1 Cincinnati.
CBS Sports presents Major League Baseball. Today's game is brought to you by Toyota, reminding you to always buckle up. Do it for those who love you. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Little Caesars Pizza. 2 great pizzas for 1 low price.
Here at Riverfront, the Cincinnati Reds lead 11-1, about to make it 2 in a row over the Los Angeles Dodgers. There's a new pitcher on the mound for L.A. as we go to the bottom of the 8th. The third pitcher of the afternoon for Tom Lasorda is Jay Howell.
Jay Howell opening the season on the disabled list. He's healthy now. So the Dodgers have a healthy staff. The question is whether they will be effective.
And a couple of changes in the field for Los Angeles as well. Mike Sharperson remains in the game. He's at third base. Sharperson at third. And Stan Javier remains in the game in center field. Dave Martinez, the first batter to face Howell today. Straight back, strike 1. Tim Cruz worked 3 innings. He allowed 7 runs, all earned on 9 hits. He walked 1. It was an intentional walk. and he recorded a strikeout. But the pitchers of record are the starters, Tom Candiotti and Tim Belcher. The 11 runs scored today by Cincinnati matches their season high. They also scored 11 on April 25th against San Diego. Well hit to center. Javier back to the edge of the warning track to make the catch.
Talked about the All-Star voting. What about Darren Daulton in Philadelphia? Having a terrific season. Batting well over 300. His 11th home run last night. He has 7 home runs in the last 8 games. And he's 4th in the voting.
Leads the league in runs batted in. His Philadelphia Philly teammate, John Kruk, leads the majors in batting average. At 377. Freddie Benavides up for the first time today. Swing and a miss for strike one. See what John Kruk said about his Philadelphia Philly team, talking about Darren Daulton and Dykstra and some of the other characters. He said we ought to be called 24 morons and a Mormon. He doesn't know how Dale Murphy, being the gentleman that he is, wound up with the rest of those characters in Philadelphia. I think it's safe to say we'll see both Kruk and Daulton in San Diego on July 14th, the All-Star game. A pretty good comeback in a little bit more than a year for Darren Daulton from that very serious car accident last year.
And before that, Mike Heath, catcher for the Atlanta Braves. Actually, I think he was with San Francisco at the time. But he ran into Daulton, tore up his left knee. That collision, that serious collision last year in St. Louis. Ray Lankford running into Daulton. He dropped the ball to end the game and almost knocked him out. He has battled through the assorted injuries and has become a terrific catcher, and a catcher that the Phillies always thought he would be.
Now Paul O'Neill, who hit twice during the 6-run Cincinnati 6th. He singled to start the inning and scored the first run in that inning, and he grounded out to end it. He's 1 for 4 today. We're in the 8th. It's 11-1 Reds. Fastball from Howell, miss. 2-0. Ball in for a strike. Two and two the count. Completing our trip around the horn in the National League, a stop in San Diego to tell you about Fred McGriff, who's tied with Barry Bonds for the National League lead with 14 home runs. And McGriff 4th in the league at 335. O'Neill with a shot but foul into the stands and right.
And if one of the two get hot and can possibly pass either John Kruk or Tony Gwynn, both Bonds and McGriff have a shot at the Triple Crown.
McGriff 4th in the league in batting average, tied for the lead in home runs, 2nd in the league behind Daulton in runs batted in, and only 4 behind Darren. Full count now on Paul O'Neill.
The last Triple Crown winner in the National League, Joe Ducky Medwick for the 37 Cardinals. There have been 11 Triple Crown winners in Major League history, and the last, Carl Yastrzemski in 1967.
Ball 4, low and inside. It looked like it hit O'Neill on the foot. Who do you suppose Roger McDowell is speaking with?
Have no idea. Pizza can be delivered in what, 20 minutes? guaranteed in 30 minutes to the clubhouse. An 11-1 game. What else are you going to do?
Now Reggie Sanders on the ground to short. And they go the short way. Offerman to Samuel to end the inning. We go to the 9th. The Reds lead by a touchdown and a field goal. New pitcher as we go to the 9th, and no, this is not a save situation for Dwayne Henry.
Hard thrower, and Cincinnati picked him up from the Astros, claimed him on waivers this past November.
They blew a fastball by Eric Karros for strike 1. Excellent hits to innings pitched ratio, but the walks are a bit more frequently thrown by Dwayne Henry than Lou Piniella would like. Karros, Benzinger, and Samuel scheduled. Karros provided the Dodgers with their only run in this game when he hit his 8th home run of the season in the 6th inning off the starter Tim Belcher. To right, and room for O'Neill. 1 out. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Benzinger looks at a ball. Been a long day for Tom Lasorda, who is the dean of active managers for consecutive service with one team. Good fastball by Henry. We mentioned earlier it's his 16th season as manager. He ranks second among all active coaches in major professional sports in head coaching tenure with the same team, behind Don Shula, 22 years with the Miami Dolphins. Of course, the young man will try to start a string and overtake both Tom Lasorda and Don Shula in this stadium this fall when young David Shula becomes the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. He already is the head coach. He'll get into game action this fall. Benzinger's pop up into the stands. 1-2. Boston still leads Toronto 5-2 at Sky Dome in the 8th inning. Burks, Plantier, and Greenwell home runs for the Red Sox. Winfield hit one for the Blue Jays. And when this game ends, we'll be sending you to that ball game with Dick Stockton and Jim Cott. Henry went to the breaking ball to strike out Benzinger. Todd's had a tough day. He's 0 for 4 with strikeouts in each of his last 3 times up.
Mentioned Tommy Lasorda, the Dodgers with only 2 managers the last 39 years, and consider the fact that 13 managers were canned in Major League Baseball last year. That is a remarkable achievement.
Tommy, to catch Walter Alston, he'd have to manage until he was 71. He says that's possible, but around Los Angeles there is growing speculation as to when Lasorda's reign might end. Juan Samuel, even on the count, 1 ball and 1 strike. I hope he sticks around forever. He still enjoys it. He's vibrant. Still one of the best managers in the game.
That's right.
This guy's throwing pretty hard. 2-1 the count.
Well, when you throw that hard and you're in an 11-1 game, you're brought into a game. And that means your record is not that good. There's got to be a reason, and you mentioned it at the beginning of this inning, and that's bases on balls and wildness. He's an awfully hard thrower.
The Dodgers victimized by their gloves again today and by a lack of hitting. They've managed only 4 hits. They committed 3 first-inning errors that set the tone for this one. Most fans remain on their feet in anticipation of the final out. It won't come on that pitch. The fastball was just low. The 3-2 pitch is popped up straight back and out of play.
Looks like Dwayne needs to snap those pants.
Boiler's hanging out.
The game's not over yet, Dwayne.
Maybe he has his street clothes on underneath there. He's trying to, yeah, I think they became unsnapped. And I'll tell you, used to be in spring training, Wilson made the uniforms, and guys would come down to lose weight, and the waistband would turn over, and guys would kid one another. They'd tell each other that Wilson was showing.
Meaning the logo on the uniform.
Of course.
Yes.
That's it. The Dodgers go 1-2-3 in the ninth. And it couldn't have come a moment sooner if you're a Dodger fan. Reds win it 11-1, and they're playing very well. For Tim McCarver, Sean McDonough saying so long. Stand by for the Blue Jays and Red Sox in a moment.